South Africa is on the edge, streets burning, communities rising, and leaders scrambling for answers. From daily power cuts to dry taps and broken promises, the frustration has reached a boiling point. But this isn't just about outages, it's about dignity, survival, and a people who've had enough. In today's video, we unpack the truth behind the protests, the failure of service delivery, and why ordinary citizens are saying no more. This is SA Unfiltered, and we're exposing what they don't want you to see. Across South Africa, a wave of frustration is boiling over into the streets. From the dusty outskirts of rural towns to the packed neighborhoods of urban townships, the cry is the same: we've had enough. The ongoing service delivery failures, ranging from persistent power outages and dry taps to crumbling infrastructure and broken promises, have ignited a firestorm of protests. Citizens are tired of waiting. Tired of excuses. Tired of leaders who appear more invested in political survival than in the dignity of those they meant to serve. The pattern has become depressingly familiar. Communities plead for basic services. Government officials offer apologies or short-term fixes. The situation briefly improves, only to deteriorate once again. And so, the protests erupt, roads are blocked, buildings torched, and the cycle repeats itself. But this time, the outrage feels different. The anger is more sustained. The people more determined. There's a growing sense that this is no longer about isolated incidents, this is a national crisis of governance. Electricity has become the most visible symbol of this failure. Load shedding, once a rare inconvenience, is now an unavoidable part of daily life. For hours on end, communities are plunged into darkness. Businesses grind to a halt. Schools are disrupted. And the hope of a better tomorrow flickers with every blackout. Eskom, once the pride of Africa's industrial landscape, has become a punchline, a tragic example of what happens when corruption, mismanagement, and political interference collide. While billions have been poured into bailouts and new plans, the reality on the ground remains unchanged. And the public is fed up. But it's not just electricity. Water supply systems are failing across the country. Entire towns go for days, sometimes weeks, without running water. Leaking pipes, unmaintained reservoirs, and collapsed sewage systems have turned daily survival into a struggle. For many, this isn't just inconvenient, it's life-threatening. Children go to school unbathed. Clinics operate without proper sanitation. Families walk miles just to fill buckets from unreliable tankers. Meanwhile, government officials continue to promise improvement, as they have for years. The protests over these failures are not driven by political opposition or party rivalry, they are driven by desperation. By the raw pain of a mother who cannot cook dinner because the electricity is out again. By the heartbreak of a student who studies by candlelight, praying the lights will stay on for tomorrow's exam. By the fury of workers who lose jobs because their factory can't operate without power or water. These are not abstract policy debates. These are real lives being shattered by a government that too often seems distant, distracted, or indifferent. And the public is speaking out in the only way they believe will be heard, through protest. But the response to these protests has too often been violent or dismissive. Instead of listening, the state deploys police. Instead of engaging, it blames sabotage or third forces. This denialism only adds fuel to the fire. South Africans are not protesting for fun. They are protesting because the promise of democracy, a promise of dignity, opportunity, and equality, is being betrayed. What makes this even more tragic is that many of the issues being protested are entirely preventable. It's not that the money doesn't exist. It's not that the technical skills are lacking. It's that the systems in place are broken, riddled with corruption, crippled by inefficiency, and too often led by individuals who prioritize politics over public service. Tenders are awarded not on merit, but on connections. Projects stall because of endless bureaucratic red tape. And even when things are built, they are often poorly maintained or abandoned entirely. Meanwhile, the gap between leaders and the people continues to grow. Ministers and mayors travel in blue light convoys while their constituents walk through sewage-filled streets. Politicians campaign on promises they have no intention of keeping. They speak of progress while their voters live in crumbling, neglected communities. This disconnect is dangerous because it breeds not just anger, but hopelessness. And when people lose hope, the very foundation of democracy is at risk. What South Africa needs now is not more speeches or policy papers. It needs action. Real, visible, measurable change. It needs a government that treats service delivery not as a privilege, but as a fundamental human right. It needs leaders who are present, accountable, and transparent. It needs institutions that function, officials who deliver, and a system that punishes corruption instead of rewarding it. Communities are not asking for luxuries. They are asking for electricity that stays on, water that flows, roads that can be driven on, clinics that work, and schools that teach. These are the basics of a functioning society. They are not negotiable. And they cannot be postponed any longer. The protests may seem chaotic, but at their heart is a simple demand: dignity. The dignity of being heard. The dignity of having basic needs met. The dignity of living in a country where leaders serve the people, not the other way around. This is a defining moment for South Africa. Will those in power continue to ignore the cries of the people? Or will they rise to the challenge and rebuild trust through meaningful reform? The answer will shape the future of the nation. If you're tired of the spin, tired of the lies, and ready to stand with those who are demanding more, then you're in the right place. When government fails to deliver, the people will rise, not because they want to, but because they must. South Africa's service delivery protests are a cry for dignity, not destruction. And unless real change comes, the outrage will only grow. If you found this eye-opening, do the one thing they fear: stay informed. Subscribe to SA Unfiltered for fearless reporting, deep analysis, and unfiltered truth straight from the ground. Like, share, and comment below, because your voice is part of the change. Until next time, stay sharp, stay active, and stay unfiltered.